Hairspray takes place in 1963 in Baltimore. With the set design for Hairspray, what we tried to do is capture the fun of the time period, and we're breaking out of the 50s, getting into the 60s element, where there's more of a freedom of expression and an interest in self-acceptance and even individual style, which even is portrayed in the hairstyles of the time period. And so we tried to capture all of the fun of that and really bring that to fruition.
As always, Brian Mallgrave, our scenic designer, has come up with wonderful ideas. It moves very quickly, and it does have a lot of locations.
For the opening scene for this production, we meet Tracy for the first time, and she's waking up in bed, and then we transition from her bedroom scene going into the streets of Baltimore. And when we go into that Baltimore street scene, we start to see a lot of different elements come into play with different characters and such, so that we're introduced to where she's brought up. There's a really interesting element to the whole story of Baltimore. There are a lot of buildings in downtown Baltimore that are actually made of formstone. What we're doing is creating this whole portal, and it's basically 2D with just a little bit of a three-dimensional return. And then on top of this element, we're going to give it this paint treatment. And it'll be a two-dimensional paint treatment that looks a little bit more 3D from far away. Going from the late 50s into the 60s, we start to see a lot of the Googie architecture, which is kind of celebrating like the space age and just breaking out of this kind of, conformed style. So one of the reasons we went with a lot of circle and oval work was because it was indicative of things getting bigger and things ready to explode with a lot of fun. Right now we're in the beginning phases of construction, and as we go through and finish each piece, we're taking the construction phase into the painted phase. So as you can see, Jill's working right now on one of the units that we're getting closer to finishing, which is Pinky's, which is the fashion store. The unit that Jill is working on right now are the front doors for Pinky's fashion store element. These doors are going to have kind of a fun trick to them, and they open up once they get into place on stage, and then we see the interior of the store and a dressing room. Another aspect that we thought would be really fun to incorporate into all of this design was a lot of the glitter. We really want some of the buildings to kind of pop and sparkle when they're coming down, and so we've added a lot of that to a lot of the different elements. These circles are a big part of the proscenium in the show, and we've laid glitter on the top of those as well, so that it kind of is indicative of a layer of hairspray being kind of sprayed on the top of them. So it should be a lot of fun with lighting and everything. Stuart is working over here on Motor Mouth's unit, which is the individual record store unit that comes on and off downstage on a track. And it looks like he's getting pretty far along on that. At one point during the show, we actually head more into like a downtown area, into the record shop. And in order to have that element also have a bit of fun to it, we've actually created a city backdrop in the background that grows up. And so when the city is growing and we're heading more downtown, everybody kind of gets that perspective of being able to like travel to the downtown area with us. So that'll be a lot of fun. We also have a kind of fun element in the show at the very end of Act 1. All of the ladies are carted off in a paddy wagon, and the way that we approached that was to create something that was mostly two-dimensional, but could kind of look three-dimensional in perspective the way it's painted from the audience. And this is the actual unit right now, and it looks kind of funny. It looks very, very small. But once we get the paint layers in there and all of our design drawn on that, it'll actually look a lot more dimensional, and it will actually look like the paddy wagon is kind of headed down the street. This element is actually what's going to eventually become the hairspray can for the finale of the show, and it's actually sonotube. And we're going to cut off some of the top within the design and then add a domed element that makes it look more like a can. And then we're going to go into the unit and cut out two doors that will swing open automatically, and then the actor will step out of it. One of the fun parts is at the very top of the can, it's going to have a nozzle that shoots out confetti and streamers at the very end of the show.
Fire in the hole. 3, 2, 1.
We tested the Canon and wanted to make sure that we had the certain look that we were going for to get the best impact for the finale of the show.
We're ready for test number 2.
All right, let's try it again.
These we believe to be 8-gram CO2 cartridges. 3, 2, 1.
And we looked at a bunch of different ways of doing that. this particular production, there are lots of different scenes and lots of different locales. So you have lots of different large elements that are moving backwards and forwards and across the stage. So it's going to be quite complicated, but we've mapped out a plan so that that stuff works really effectively and also enhances the production quite a bit. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.